Hello, Key West. And as usual, hello to my friends in Sydney, Australia, Tokyo, Japan, Beijing, China, Jakarta, Indonesia, uh, 5 or 6 different cities in Italy, several in Greece, Calitzdorp, South Africa, London, England, uh, South America, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil, all over the United States and in many places in Canada. Welcome to the Key West Lou Legal Hour. I wasn't going to start the show the same way this morning as I usually do and as I usually did, only because, as you are aware, my book was published last week, The World Upside Down by Key West Lou or Louis Patron. Interesting book, series of essays. At least I think it's interesting. The first book that was sold, it's all over the internet, you buy it, was from Beijing, China. Big. The second book that was sold came from Calitzdorp, South Africa. And the third order was for 25 books from a friend in Novara, Italy, who's going to give them away for Christmas presents. And then a ton of people have been buying it here out of the Key West area. And I've gotten so many emails. I'm buying your book. People I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate the attention. I got to be honest, I appreciate it. It's not for money. It's the fact that people want to read it, because I wondered as I wrote it, is anyone going to read this stuff? So it's nice. Today is a special occasion. It's the 50th anniversary of the death of President John Kennedy. You know, all of us remember where we were on 9/11. We have a clear impression. I was 28 years old when he died in 1963. I had been practicing law for 3 years, and I have a distinct recollection of where I was and the impact it had on me. I had new offices in this large office building, and I'd gone down the second floor cafeteria to get a cup of coffee, and as I walked in, the radio announced, people didn't have televisions in cafeterias or in lobbies at the time. There was an announcement that came over the radio: President Kennedy died at such and such a time. I cried. Not a second went by. I just filled up and the tears came out. And I looked around and just about everyone else was crying. It was a very emotional moment. Kennedy brought something to this country I had not seen before, and I definitely have not seen since. It was called Camelot. He was a young president, obviously good-looking, debonair, charming. He had a young wife. He had 2 young children. They would always show pictures of the president in the Oval Office, working at his desk in his shirt sleeves, and there's the kids running around, crawling on the carpet underneath his desk. He brought in people to work with him that were young also. There was a sense of vitality. There was a sense of excitement. We knew we were going to accomplish something. We never got the chance to find out. He got killed, and it's never been the same since. I haven't seen a president yet. I'm not saying certain presidents may have been better, certain worse. He did not have his time to distinguish himself. He only had 3 years. He did well on the Cuban Missile Crisis. He did badly on the Cuban invasion. So he was like 50-50 up to that time. But I haven't seen that sense of excitement, and we're going to do something, and we're a great country, and we all love America, since Kennedy. I hope it comes back sometime. It was an interesting time up until the time of his death. Okay. I enjoy talking about wasting government, only because our government, and I'm looking at I'm going to call them idiots, these people in the House of Representatives. Remember this under the Constitution. The House of Representatives controls the allocation of money. Money comes through the House of Representatives or you don't get a dime. Well, they want to take away food stamps from the poor. They want to screw the poor, take away food stamps. They've already passed a bill for $40 billion to be removed from the food stamp program. They want to take advantage of the elderly and diminish the benefits that have been available to the elderly, in that they want to cut Social Security and Medicare. And they could care less about the sick because they want to do away with Obamacare. I say one way to make everything affordable in this country is to look for waste and eliminate it. Our national debt is $17 trillion. I don't even know how much money that is, except it sounds like a lot of money. National debt is $17 trillion. I've got a big waste example I'm going to point out to you, and it totals $8.7 trillion, or half our national debt. In 1996, a law was passed, or a rule came out, that all federal departments, agencies had to budget to the penny. Every penny was spent. It was like balancing one's checkbook. It had to balance at the end of the year, every penny you took in and every penny that went out. Well, the only federal department or agency that has not done this since 1996 is the Pentagon. The Pentagon hasn't budgeted, and they can't find, here's the problem, they can't balance the checkbook. Since 1996, they are $8.7 trillion. They can't find it. They don't know where it went. That's half our national debt. They do not know where it went. Now, this could not be tolerated in business. This could not be tolerated in your home. If you didn't know where 50% of your paycheck was going, you'd be living under the bridge or in the woods with the homeless. So what they started doing in the Pentagon, they were cooking the books, doctoring them up. They'd fill in numbers hoping they would balance. But nothing was coming out right. So they never supplied the figures that they were supposed to supply every year because they just could not do it. And this is all verifiable, by the way. This information has come to us through whistleblowers. People who were working for the Pentagon, who no longer work for them, have revealed all of this recently. Turns out everyone knew about this in Washington, though. The Secretary of Defense is known from 1996. Congress knows. The House of Representatives knows. They can't balance their budget. They can't find $8.7 trillion. And no one said anything. Why didn't anyone say anything? I would be very excited. Everyone should be very excited. How can they not allocate, how can they not find $8.7 trillion? An excuse that has been given is that the computer system is faulty. The software is antiquated. Hell, we got a problem with Obamacare. We got new software, new machinery, it doesn't work. Well, if it was antiquated, they should have bought new. My God, with the Pentagon has the biggest budget. The Department of Defense has the biggest budget in our government. It makes war. It should have a big budget. They couldn't figure out how to buy new computers, new software programs, hire some geeks, get it done. I think this is disgraceful. It's sloppiness to the ultimate degree. And you and I should be upset. I am upset, though I find it humorous. How can they not account, how can they not balance their checkbook since 1996 and be $8.7 trillion in the hole, or to the effect they can't explain where it went? Half of our national debt, and Congress knew. These are the same guys that want to cut Social Security, Medicare, food stamps for the poor. Let me show you another bit of wastefulness. These things are interesting. Every week I'm bringing some things to your attention. They come to my attention. That's why I share them. Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Democrat of New Hampshire. She comes out this week with an announcement that's fantastic. Afghanistan. Afghanistan's an absolute disaster as far as I'm concerned. The country knows it. The people know it. The president knows it. He ran. He said, I am going to get us out of Afghanistan. And he came up and he said, we're going to be out by 2014. Now this week, what do we hear? We're signing a new security agreement with Afghanistan to remain another 10 years till 2014. Not 100,000 troops, not 50,000. The Afghans want 15,000. We want to leave 7,000 or 8,000 there. The real reason being because we need them there to maintain a base in the Middle East. We'll have our air bases. We'll have some soldiers there. We'll have all our equipment there. We're ready to go if there's going to be war in the Middle East and we have to move. I say get them out. Let's not do this thing. Let's not leave one soldier in the Middle East. We must get out. They're dying. They're always dying. Well, anyhow, here's what happened. Our government, House of Representatives again, they allocate the money, sends money over for something called Afghan reconstruction. They're building new buildings. $150 million, they don't know what happened to it. They do know what happened to it. And that's what Senator Shaheen told us. And we're going to break now. And when I come back, I'm going to tell you where that money went. And you should be extremely upset when I explain it to you. Stay with me. Louis Patrone back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. Prior to the break, I was talking about something Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire came up with this week and disclosed to the American public. The United States, we send all kinds of money to Afghanistan. One of the things is for military help so they can fight the terrorists. The terrorists are the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, our sworn enemies, all right? Another thing is we are rebuilding. We are rebuilding Afghanistan. We're putting in buildings, we're putting in highways, streets, water systems, electric systems, and that's called part of Afghanistan reconstruction. Well, it turns out Senator Shaheen claims that $150 million of the money that was supposed to go to build the highways, the utility, and the waterworks instead has gone to 43 different companies, 43 companies that are fronts for Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Fronts for Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and they're terrorist connected, obviously, and the money has actually gone to the terrorists, Taliban and Al-Qaeda, to be used to help kill American soldiers. So our American boys and girls in the military in Afghanistan, our own taxpayer dollars are being used in Afghanistan by the enemy to kill our people, and they got our $150 million through this Afghan reconstruction company where the money went to 43 companies that weren't really on our side. Now that's another disgrace. Nobody talks about these things, probably because they're ashamed, the government, our government, our House of Representatives who allocates the money. They have to know about these things somehow, but if they speak of them, they look like asses. Why aren't you paying attention? There have to be inspector generals who come up with this information. This is another example of disgracefulness, waste of money, but more importantly, using our own money to kill our own people. I've got to stay with the military for a moment. Perhaps our greatest heroes are the veterans. Look how many wars we've had. In my lifetime, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and a couple of other small ones. A lot of veterans were hurt for life, disabled. We promised all of them free medical the rest of their lives, whether they were disabled or not. You fought for your country, you got free medical, we got the vets hospitals, you get what you need, you earned it. You put your life on the line. Well, it turns out we haven't been taking care of our veterans. We know this. It was a campaign issue the first time Barack Obama ran. And he said, this is a disgrace. I'm going to do something about it when I'm elected. He has done something, but nowhere near enough, very little. Because what's happening now, a new report has come out that our veterans are dying because they cannot get the proper medical attention timely, especially in the area of gastrointestinal problems. Colonoscopies, you have to wait 9 months for, where they go in and look for the polyps and the precancer things so they can cut them out so you do not get cancer and die of cancer of the colon. 9-month wait for colonoscopies and endoscopies where they go down the front. And it has been verified, it's been established that at one hospital alone, 9 deaths occurred because of this. They think there were 20, but they can definitely prove 9 deaths occurred because of the delay, because the government does not have enough money to fund these hospitals and take care of our people. We're leaving our veterans behind. We're leaving everybody behind in this country. Pay attention. We are leaving our veterans behind. We're leaving our elderly behind when you talk about Medicare and Social Security being cut. We're leaving our young behind when they've cut 2 major food programs, the House of Representatives. This seems to be a trend in the country. Leave people behind. Not right. The veterans helped us when we needed help. We must help them now. I consider this a national shame. Let's talk about Walmart. You are going to love this. Walmart. Walmart is the most successful company in the world. They have the greatest profit of any company in the world. Walmart last year had a net profit of $14.7 billion. $14.7 billion. Sounds like a lot of money to me. That's net profit. That means after all kinds of expenses, all kinds of salaries, Walmart had $14 billion left. My God, you can have a wonderful time with $14 billion. Walmart does not pay their employees enough money. I talked last week and the week before about Walmart. How they don't pay a living wage. With all that profit, they can afford to pay a living wage, but they only pay about $10 to $12 an hour to their people. And this was in Business Week. They can afford to pay it, but they don't pay it. And then last May, a congressional report came out, which I told you about last week, again, verifying that most of their employees make $10 an hour. How do they survive? Because as it turns out also, many of their employees, a good chunk of their employees, are below the poverty level, and they cannot make it economically. They cannot feed their families, clothe them, without being on public assistance, something like welfare, and that a large number of Walmart employees have to supplement what Walmart pays them at $10 an hour with public assistance. And that money that they get from public assistance is taxpayer dollars. Okay. So I didn't understand how bad this was. When I share this with you, you will understand now, as I did. There is one store, only one. Now, you know how many stores Walmart has. I mean, there's one on almost every corner in the United States. I'm exaggerating, but they have many. In Wisconsin, one store alone, last year, $900,000 in public assistance, almost $1 million went to supplement the paycheck of Walmart employees in that one store. Something's wrong. They're making all this profit, #1 company in the world, most profitable, and now guess what they did? Thanksgiving's going to be this week. Thanksgiving's next week, I'm sorry. I can't wait. I enjoy Thanksgiving dinner. But Thanksgiving's coming. And they know that some of their employees do not have enough money to put a proper Thanksgiving meal out. A turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, yams, sweet potatoes, salad, pumpkin pie. They just don't have enough to do it for their families. So Walmart has established a food drive. This is a store that sells groceries, by the way. Has established a food drive that they want their employees, this is solely for the employees to participate in, so the employees can bring in food which can be donated to their fellow employees who do not have enough food for Thanksgiving. Walmart wants all their employees to enjoy Thanksgiving. They're whores. They want the $10 an hour people to bring in food for the $10 an hour people who can't afford, because they got too many kids or something, to put a decent meal on the table, when Walmart's out there with almost $15 billion in profit. Not right. That's all I can say. And I don't understand things like this. I don't understand what Walmart's doing. Another disgrace. It's absolutely stupid. The nerve of Walmart to do this. You know, they want us to live. They say, get rid of Social Security and everything. Your neighbors will take care of you. The church will take care of you. This would be an example of one neighbor taking care of another. Maybe they want to establish it can be done. I don't know. Don't forget this. Terrible, terrible, terrible. We're going to break. I shall return. Louis Petrone back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. I thank you once again for joining me. I enjoyed doing the show. I hope you enjoy watching it. If you happen to miss the show on television or on the internet, it is YouTube now every week. I think I got the YouTube system down finally. It is YouTubed every week on Tuesday. This is Friday. On Tuesday, it will be YouTube. Don't ask me why there's a 3-day delay. I have no idea. Not my end of the business. However, on Tuesday it shows, and all you have to do is go to YouTube, type in Key West Lou and the date. Like if today's the 22nd, you type in Key West Lou 11/22/13. And it comes up immediately, right on top, and you watch the show. That's simple. Remember to put the date in with the Key West Lou. It's the first time I'm advising this because I learned this morning. Okay, I want to talk about a federal judge who showed some intelligence this week. His name is Judd Rakoff. He's a federal district court judge in New York City. He's a big deal. You're a federal district court judge anywhere, you're a big deal. In New York City, you are an exceptional big deal. He gave a talk before the New York City Bar Association, a bunch of attorneys. And he said something that I've been saying, and I've been saying this for about 4 years. I've said it in writing, I've said it on the show, I said it in my newspaper columns, because it's so obvious. And it's this. No one, to this date, my friends, from Wall Street has gone to jail for what happened in 2008, 2009, with the financial collapse, caused the recession, the mortgage fiasco, all right, that put a lot of people out of their homes, a lot of people. Millions of people have lost their homes in this country. But it was all started by the banks, if you recall, with the screwy stock system they had. Not one bank officer has gone to jail. Go steal 5 bananas from Publix. You get caught, you're going to do 30 days. Not one has gone to jail for billions of dollars, if not trillions, in theft. He said this is wrong. We prosecute the corporation, we hold them liable, they pay a fine. No one gets hurt. No one gets hurt. We're giving, and the government gives us unconvincing excuses, like too big to fail, too big to prosecute, would cause an international recession. An international recession. If one of these big banks or companies, stock companies, went under, we've got to keep them up. Well, I want to tell you something. Because the law says if the corporation is liable, that means that a person, a managerial person, had to do something wrong in order for the corp to be liable, the corporation, criminally. So there's always a body involved. I'm going to tell you, you take one CEO of a major bank, major stock company who's been screwing around and caused all this trouble, and you prosecute, give him a trial, convict it, send him to jail, no one will do anything wrong for probably another 10 years. They will be so scared, every other CEO, every other president, you know, who wants to go to jail? Who wants the public humility? Who wants to lose their home, their country club, their private jets, their great trips, their 4 or 5 homes all over the world? No one. And if you do this to one of them, it shows them this is what's going to happen to you if you step over that line. And they'll all straighten up real well and real quick. And this is what Judge Rakoff said. Send somebody to jail. No one's gone to jail for a major financial wrongdoing. And what's even further worse, more bad, is he spelled out that there's a 5-year statute of limitations for this type of fraud and wrongdoing, which means after 5 years, if you don't prosecute, you can't prosecute. And the 5 years is close to running out on most of these crimes. So the banks will have beat the system. No one's going to have gone to jail. They're walking away with $20 million, $40 million a year salaries, while they're part of the 1%. The 99% don't make enough money anymore to feed their families, send their kids to college, or anything else. Which brings us now to we are being humiliated before the world. Countries that would never say a nasty thing about the United States, challenge the United States, take us on in any regard, because after all, we're the most powerful nation in the world. We're purportedly the wealthiest nation in the world. Don't cross the United States. We want them as our friend. All right? But it's happening now. And it never happened before. What am I talking about? And I think this all came to pass, by the way, because President Obama, with regard to Syria, he opened his mouth a year ago and said, you know, if we have chemical weapons, that's the line they've crossed. We're going to do something about it. So here we were going to do something about it, and 48 hours before we entered into some agreement so we didn't have to go bomb their air bases or something. But the world expected us to live up to what the president has said. I personally am glad he did what he did. He didn't go to war. But in the eyes of the world, the president blinked and did not send into Syria the necessary military power to give Assad a kick in the ass. Then came the government shutdown. The House of Representatives, you know, the politically inspired government shutdown for several days, that really made us look bad in the eyes of the world. My God, the United States can't manage their own government? What's happening? It seems to be part of human nature that when someone's down, you step on them even more. And some countries that shouldn't have been stepping on us. For example, and it all has to do with the bugging. I'm going to talk about the bugging. It all starts with the bugging. You know, we're bugging telephones, we're bugging emails, we're bugging everything, which I think is wrong and we should not. That's for another discussion. But Brazil, who ever heard of Brazil ever saying anything nasty about the United States? We should have said nasty things about Brazil over the years, because when World War II ended, many German war criminals escaped to South America. And one of the places that gave them safe haven to these fellows that were running concentration camps, death camps, and everything else was Brazil. We've always taken care of Brazil. Right now, their economy is very good. They really don't need us at this time. But we've always helped Brazil. They've been our friends. The president of Brazil was supposed to come here for a visit with our president recently. And she's a woman. The president is a woman. And she said, I'm not going unless I get a personal apology from the president, your president, for bugging our telephones, our governmental cell phones and telephones. Then comes Germany, Merkel, Chancellor Merkel. I don't like Merkel. I'm going to get into her in this show. I think she's bad news. But anyhow, she finds out her cell phone's bugged, and she makes an international incident out of it, and she wants a personal apology from the president, and there's certain things she will not do now until we straighten out and apologize for bugging her phone and certain other phones in Germany. You got to understand, everybody bugs everyone in this world. Since World War II, every country bugs every other country. Then comes France. Now, Germany. Where would Germany be today if we did not provide the funds to rehabilitate Germany after World War II? Total destruction, like a hurricane had hit, a Category 5. Berlin was down, every building down. We provided the money and helped them build. We built new plants, streets, houses, waterworks, utilities of all kinds, electricity. Without us, Germany wouldn't be where they are today. Then comes France. Who owes us more than France? Germany occupied France during World War II. For 4 whole years, the Germans lived, the army lived, worked, operated in France. The French people was subjugated to the Germans. Who knocked the Germans out of France? The United States. We were the ones, our boys primarily, who landed at Normandy, who died to free France, so the free French could run the country. Their president now is saying, my phone was bugged. What an insult. You know, and I want the President of the United States to apologize. You have to understand, France is really a second-rate country. They owe Germany a lot of money too. France somehow has sucked up to Germany. They're friends because Germany has said, you can take your time paying us and we'll cut the interest rate. So whatever Germany wants, France does, and I think France was motivated or pushed by Germany to say, I want an apology. Now comes Afghanistan. But before I get to it, we have to go to break. Stay with me. You're going to love Afghanistan on this issue. I'll be back. Louis Petrone back with the Key West Lou Legal Hour. Before break, I was talking about countries that are taking advantage of us now, like Brazil, Germany, and France. Who want apologies from our president, who are making snide remarks about us because they see us weaker or in a weakened position because Obama didn't carry through and do something militarily with Syria, and because of the governmental shutdown. We are weak now in the eyes of the world. We, the strongest country, no, we're not down, but we're down, which means they can push us around and punch us around a little bit. And Brazil, Germany, and France are doing it. And so is Karzai in Afghanistan. Karzai's a puppet. We put him up. We made this guy president of Afghanistan. I think he's got a loose marble upstairs. You see how he behaves. Well, now we're supposed to be out of Afghanistan by 2014. We find out yesterday that we may have, or the day before, that Secretary of State Kerry is negotiating a 10-year agreement till 2024 to leave some troops in Afghanistan, which I think is a mistake. And Karzai says, well, no, I don't know. He says, I'll let you leave them and I'll say yes to the agreement. This was till yesterday morning. This was his position, Karzai. If the United States, in writing, apologizes for all the Afghan citizens they killed during the Afghan war. We had to apologize. Look, citizens, it's a war all over the country. They have to, some people get killed, innocent people. On the other hand, there's no organized country or army in opposition to the United States or certain Afghan troops there. These are guerrilla type soldiers. They don't wear uniforms, okay? They have their weapons and they go out and they fight, but they're citizens. And they get killed because they're the ones actually fighting also. Karzai says, I need in writing an apology that this happened. Our citizens were killed and it will not happen in the next 10 years. Well, he backed off on this when the agreement was finalized last night. We don't know, though, if it's going to be totally approved. We'll know in the next 48 hours, I understand, whether Afghanistan is going to approve the agreement. But what gives Karzai the brass testicles to stand up to us? He's done it before. Because we didn't go through with what Obama said, and I'm glad he didn't, but we didn't go through with it in Syria. We had the government shutdown, which, boy, emboldened and enhanced all these people. Brazil turned on us. Germany turned on us. France turned on us. Why can't Afghanistan? And that's exactly what Karzai did, and it all came about because of Syria and the government shutdown. And I'm telling you, if we have another government shutdown at the end of December or in January, we're going to look real bad before the eyes of the world, and we're going to have more significant problems with other countries. Now let me talk about the NSA, the National Security Agency, buggings, Chancellor Merkel of Germany. I love this. Let's start with Australia. We don't even hear about Australia. They're on the other side of the world. They're down there. They mind their own business. They seem to be a peace-loving country. I have told you this on the show, based on my recent European trip. I had the opportunity to speak with a government official from Australia while I was in Greece, and she told me, economically, things have never been better in Australia. They're making a ton of money. She said we had the same problems with the bank that you're having, but they did things. They cut the legs off the banks and so forth. They put everyone under control, and now they're prospering. Everybody's working, everybody's making money in Australia. Well, a big company that's headquartered in Australia, their home place, is called BHP Billiton. BHP Billiton. It's the largest mining company in the world. BHP, largest mining company in the world, headquarters Australia. They're in trade talks with Japan. Trade talks with Japan. Big money involved. The Australian government, on behalf of BHP, their big mining manufacturer, bugged the telephones, the computers, the emails of the Japanese industry and certain Japanese government offices, okay, to help BHP in the negotiation. I'm just showing you that, everybody does this. We're getting blamed. I will also share with you, I have learned, and I believe this, that most of the bugging that is being done by all companies against the other really hasn't to do with military things primarily. It has to do with business intelligence. Business intelligence. The main target of bugging today is for business intelligence, because really the wars between nations are being waged on the economic front, not on a shoot-me type battlefield. Okay, so now we have the National Security Agency, and we learned because of Edward Snowden's release of all this information that our government is bugging my cell phone, my home phone, my computer, my emails, and yours too. Everyone in the country. Absolutely amazing. I think it stinks and it's wrong. We are losing our freedoms in this country. Little by little, we give things up and they say, well, you got to do this. We don't want another 9/11. That was 12 years ago. It may happen again. Look at the Boston Marathon. They keep saying, well, you don't know, but we saved a lot of lives through other things you don't know about, and we can't tell you. Tell me, because I want to know. You keep taking my freedoms away. You bug my telephone conversations. You read my emails. I don't like that. It shouldn't be in this country. So, to me, it's an agency out of control, and I don't know how we bring it under control. We will at some point in this country. We always do. But we will, but not yet. And Obama supports all this, which bothers me. Okay. We are even, as you know, bugging. The United States is bugging the new Pope, Pope Francis. We bugged the conclave that elected him. We bugged his predecessor, Pope Benedict. We wanted to know who was going to run the Catholic Church. On the show 2 weeks ago, I gave you a statistic, some data. December of last year, 1 month, 30 days in Italy, our government, through the National Security Agency, bugged 46 million telephone calls and emails. 1 month in Italy, we bugged or monitored, whatever you call it, 46 million telephone calls and emails. I ask you, what are they going to do with all this material? How can they even put it all together? How many employees would they have to hire to really assemble all this data? I don't care what the computer system is. I don't think you can really bring it all together, just generally, not specifically. Wrong to do this again. Okay, so now everybody's complaining, especially Germany and Merkel. We spy on our friends, on our allies. We do, and they do to us. Every country's been doing this since World War II. Don't you think that Germany and France are bugging Washington, bugging the Pentagon, maybe even bugging the White House? That's not a... They got so many phones and everything else. Who knows? I'm serious when I say this. Now comes Merkel. And hey, you bugged my cell phone. She's the Chancellor of Germany. Again, I tell you, Germany gave us World War I. Germany gave us World War II. They're going to give us World War III if we don't watch out. I wrote about this 1.5 years ago. I said World War III, if we have one, won't start in the Middle East. It's going to start in Europe because of Germany, maybe in Greece because of the way they're treating people. Well, I don't think we can trust Germany. I don't think we can trust Merkel. Many European countries, not Lewis, are comparing her to Hitler, the way she's handling them and treating them. Now, let's understand what Merkel's accomplished so far. She has screwed up the euro, which means the economy of all of Europe, except for Germany. They're the only ones prospering. I've got to go to break. When I come back, I'm going to stay with this a little more and show you what destruction she has brought about and what she wants to do. Stay with me, please. Louis Petrone back with the final segment of this week's Key West Lou Legal Hour. Thank you again for joining me. I was talking about bugging by our government, what's happening, how the countries are standing up to us now and they don't like it, but everyone does it, but no one wants to admit it. And Merkel, she's the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, and I'm going to give you some insight into her. She has already screwed up Europe, absolutely no question. It was German money primarily that was loaned out to the Euro countries that can't pay it back. She won't ease the terms with most countries or lower the interest rate to make it possible for them to pay. All she says without a smile is, I want to be paid. And of course her country backs her up. They're economically sound. Germany's in terrific shape economically. Unless they don't get paid back, then they're going to be in trouble. But she screwed up Germany economically. Most European countries refer to her as another Hitler, the way she treats them with disdain. What else? This Euro agreement that they signed 15 years ago provides there should be one army in Europe. Germany, France, they shouldn't have separate armies. Turkey, Greece, too much money. We're going, just like we brought the bank together and all the money, we're going to bring together all the armies. We are going to have one army. Well, it's been 15 years. No one's moving their ass on this. No country's saying, except for Germany, when are we going to do this? And you can't blame them because they've seen how Germany has conducted herself with regard to the euro. Germany has not come out. Merkel has come out and said, look, let's do it. We'll do it on a smaller scale. There's only one thing we want. We're your friends. Only one thing we want. We want to be in control of and in charge of the Air Force and the Navy. Isn't that wonderful? Germany wants to control the Air Force and the Navy. What else do they need? If there's this one euro army. And of course, Europe isn't buying it. She's pushing that now. It was back in June or July, it was reported that her phones were bugged by the United States. She was on television, international television. She laughed it off. Ho, ho, ho. Then for some reason comes the Syrian thing and everything else. And all of a sudden she's upset because her personal cell phone was tapped. Okay? And what does she do? She doesn't give up. And she already knew it was being tapped for months and probably before. But what does she do? She says, I want the apology from President Obama. They're probably bugging his phone. Can you believe the Germans are not bugging our phones? And so she sends over her high-level German intelligence people to speak to our people to see the extent of this thing. And when they returned to Germany, where did she send them? She sent them to Moscow because Edward Snowden, who released all these documents that's causing this problem, he now lives in Moscow. And he's working in Moscow, and she sent her people, her intelligence people who had been in Washington, now to Moscow to talk to Snowden to see what he knew about all this. I think, and I'm not saying this because she's a woman. No one can accuse me of not being in favor of women. No one. She's a bully in a skirt, this woman. She's a bully in a skirt. She's a troublemaker. She is to be watched. She's causing trouble, and she's going to cause big-time trouble. I compare her to Putin. She conducts herself just like Russia's Putin. This is not a nice lady. It's not a good lady for us. We've got to watch our steps with her. Okay, I wrote a book. I got to talk about the book briefly here for my benefit. I wrote a book which, as you know, was published last week, The World Upside Down. It's a series of essays about things I talk about here. I've been writing essays for 7 years. Most of them I just left in the computer. I have over 300 of them. I decided to publish 30 of them. And that's the book, The World Upside Down. And I called it The World Upside Down because the world is upside down. So it's The World Upside Down by Louis Patrone or by Key West Lou. Both names are there. It is found, you can have it as an ebook, you can buy it, or you can buy it as a softcover paper book. It's available on Amazon.com and on BarnesandNoble.com. If you're interested, buy one. I believe you will find it interesting because it's the things I talk about here enlarged. Okay, I want to talk now about credit ratings. We all know how important a credit rating is to you and me. If you've got a poor credit rating, you get a higher interest rate on your car. Loans are hard to get from a bank. You have to pay more interest because you're considered more of a risk. Well, and there are companies out there, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, who provide credit ratings on you through some system. I think this whole credit rating system sucks, that they've imposed on people. I think it's wrong, it's terrible, but forget about it. What we're going to talk about now is what Moody, one of the biggest credit rating operations in the world, did to the 4 biggest banks in the United States this past week. They lowered their credit rating. Remember last year, our credit rating, the United States credit rating, was lowered. It embarrassed us, first time ever. We're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. We're supposed to be solvent. It meant now when we borrow money from China and Japan, we're going to have to pay more interest because we're not as good a customer as before. Maybe sometime we might not be able to pay back. Anyhow, this past week, Moody's dropped the credit rating of J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Bank of New York Mellon. All big players in the mortgage fiasco that's brought this country, our country, to its knees. They dropped J.P. Morgan Chase, for example, from A3 to Baa1, Goldman Sachs from A3 to A2, and Morgan Stanley from Baa1 to Baa2, which means when these people borrow money, and they all borrow money, these banks borrow from each other, they're going to have to pay a little more interest, which means if they end up loaning you money and you're lucky, you're going to have to pay a little more interest because they're paying a little more for their money they lend you. And why'd they do this? Why did Moody's drop the credit ratings of these banks? Because Moody said this week, it's published. We are afraid that if there's another economic problem in the United States, this occurred 2008, 2009, where the United States had to bail banks out to make sure they didn't go under, to make sure the banks survived, that this time, in a financial meltdown, the United States would not be able to back them. They would go under. And that's the way it's going to happen. Because aren't we all irritated that we saved their asses, but yet the banks didn't save the ass of the people in this country, the 99%. They don't loan money. So Moody's is afraid we won't back them if there's another meltdown, which they're absolutely correct about, and that's why their credit rating came down. Turns out, too, and I wasn't aware of this till I got into this Moody thing this week, Standard & Poor's, another major credit rating organization, last June dropped the credit rating of J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Bank of America. Nice story. A Michigan man, his name is Joseph Pelmarchuk. Joseph Pelmarchuk lives in Michigan. Last Wednesday, he won $1.35 million. $1.35 million in the Michigan lottery. God bless him. God bless him. May he live a good life. Turns out, not his first $1 million win in the lottery. A few years ago, he won $1 million in the Tennessee lottery. So this guy's hit for $1 million twice. I want to know what he does. He was asked, what is your system? Well, he does have a system. See, most people will buy a lottery ticket to go up with a list of numbers, and they want these numbers punched out when they buy their lottery ticket. Or some people go in and just say, give me whatever number comes up. He doesn't do that. As I understand it, if you go in and you've got a set of numbers, sometimes the person who's working for the store selling the ticket hits the wrong number. So the numbers don't match with what you want. So these are called mistakes, and the retailer puts them aside because the person won't take it. It's not the number they wanted. I don't know what normally happens with these mistakes, but in Joseph Pomarchuk's case, he buys the mistakes. He's always bought the mistakes, and it's working for him. He's won $1 million twice in the last few years, and I got a feeling that there are going to be a lot of people in this country who now know about mistakes buying the mistakes from now on. We're into our last minute here. We're into our last 30 seconds. Thank you for joining me this week. Again, I hope you enjoyed the show. Buy my book. Read my book. You'll love it. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Peace.